So one of the biggest development we have seen in the Middle East is recently, and honestly, there are two headlines that people are seeing right now in the same time. And that sounds completely, absolutely different. So first one, the first headline says something different. The United States and Iran have reached a deal, which is a positive thing. And on the other hand, another headline says the United States and Iran still needs about 2 months to finalize everything and fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So they're absolutely two different. I'm going to break this down in details. Pay attention. So naturally, everyone is asking, wait a minute, which one is true, the first or the second? The answer is actually both. So both headlines are correct, but there's a twist right here. Once you understand what's really happening, it all makes sense to everyone. So let me break this down. First, let me start with the biggest news. The United States and Iran have reached an agreement. So what it means, the fighting stopped. So it's important to understand exactly what kind of agreement this is between US and Iran. This is not a final peace treaty where every issue has been solved. No, not at all. This is more of probably of a framework agreement, the beginning of a peace deal. Think of the foundation. Think of as if both sides agreeing to stop moving forward towards a bigger conflict and instead start working towards a longer term solution, which is a positive thing again. So the first thing included in the deal is a commitment and end of the immediate hostilities, means aggressiveness. Instead of tensions continuing to rise, both sides agreed to de-escalate, Iran and US. That's huge and positive again. Because not long ago, there were serious concerns about this situation could spiral into something much bigger. That was the biggest fear right here. So now both sides are choosing negotiations instead of escalations face to face. So that's the first major part of the agreement with US and Iran. And the second part involved the Strait of Hormuz now. Most important. If you've heard about this name before, I think you're not exactly sure why it's so important. So let me explain in details. Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important waterways in the entire world. That narrow path. The massive amount of global oil passes through that narrow path, and shipping routes are all passing every single hour. So whenever there's a tension around the Strait of Hormuz, the whole world pays attention very closely. But why is that? Because if oil shipments are disrupted, energy prices, they can go high, economic crisis all around the world, and everything will get impacted. So one of the key global in this agreement is to create the path towards reopening, normalizing traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, which didn't happen yet. So that's one of the reasons why people feeling more optimistic today than they were probably a few days ago. So the fear that existed during the heights of tension is starting to calm down now. That's what the headline says. So does that mean everything is fixed? No, absolutely. It's not fixed. Not even close, not even 10%. That's where the second headlines comes right here. Because even though a deal has reached, the hard part is the beginning, right? According to the reports, both sides still need roughly 60 days to work through the details and determine whether a final agreement can actually be achieved on the Strait of Hormuz or not. This is where the things can get super hot and interesting. A lot of people hear the words deal reached and assume everything is finished and done, they're happy. No, that's what's happening right now. What happened is both sides agreed on a roadmap, means on a clear direction. They agreed on a direction that can bring peace. They agreed where they can go from now on towards peace. Now, prove they can actually get there, right? That's what exact 2 months are all about. Think of these 60 days are probably a testing period from Iran towards US, a trust building period, a period where both sides are watching each and everything very carefully. And honestly, trust is probably the biggest issue right here between US and Iran, because Iran doesn't trust US. And so let's talk about Iran for a moment. Iran perspectives, they may be probably for an agreement and saying, okay, here, what the United States is saying, we see the promises from US, we see the commitments from the US, but now we want to see actually what's really happening. Because from Iran's point of view, trust isn't built by announcements or just by normal agreement. Trust is built by actions. That's what Iran keeps saying. Iran may not want to see whether commitments are honored or not. Iran may want to see whether tensions continue to decrease, right? Iran may want to see whether the atmosphere generally improves. Iran may want to see whether the United States follows through on everything it has promised in the agreement. So these next 60 days could effectively become a test for US and for Iran, a test to determine whether enough trust can be built for a longer term agreement between US and Iran and bring peace. And honestly, that's not about unusual position. When two countries have had disagreement and tensions for many decades, years, trust doesn't suddenly appear overnight, just in one single paper. No, it takes a lot of time. It takes consistency, hard work. It takes a lot of proof. And that's exactly what these next 2 months could be all about. Trust. Iran wants to see that. So let's look what is the meaning of the energy market, how it's going to impact. The biggest thing is all overall mood has started coming down, right? So everything started getting cheaper only on energy and uncertainty around the Strait of Hormuz. People were worried about potential disruptions to the oil supplies. Now everything calmed down. Now there's at least a pathway towards stability. There is pathway towards reopening, a positive thing. There is a pathway towards normal shipping activities, which were happening probably a year ago, and they want the same now. It doesn't mean everything instantly goes back to the normal tomorrow morning. No, it's not going to happen that way. There are still details to work out. There are still negotiations ahead. But compare to where things were before, and the situation has clearly moved in a very positive direction. So that's why this agreement matters a lot between Iran and between US. It's not because every problem has been solved. No, it's just the beginning. It's probably both sides have decided negotiation is the better than escalations. So let me break this down. Something very important. What exactly has not been resolved yet, right? Is the biggest question. Well, many of the larger, longer-term issues still remains the same under the table. That's why neither side is acting as if process is completed. No, the framework agreement is basically the beginning of next phase. Now, the next phase is where both sides sit down, try to convert this temporary understanding into a permanent agreement towards peace. Now, that's why the Bloomberg's headline says the hard part of the beginning, right? It's very hard because reaching a primarily agreement is just one thing. Maintaining it is another thing. Building the trust is just an absolutely different world. Creating a lasting solution is just a different thing. So if you're looking at the solution today, the biggest takeaway is just this. Yes, United States and Iran have reached a deal. That's it. That's all. Not more than that. Yes, that is important. That is just the beginning of a sentence. It reduces the tensions immediately. It creates a path towards reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, it helps calm concern about the energy supplies. But at the same time, the next 60 days may be the more important than the agreement itself because they want to see if someone attacks or not. Because during those 60 days, both sides are going to learn whether they can actually trust each other enough to move forward toward the peace and lasting relationship. Iran may spend 2 months watching carefully to see whether promise turns into action in a positive side. And the United States will be also watching closely to see whether commitments are being respected. Well, if those 60 days go well, the chances of final agreement becomes much higher, which is again a very good thing. If they don't go well, negotiations could become much more difficult, and of course, the attacks will start. And that's really where we are right now. The crisis has not completely disappeared. No, don't think about that. But the direction has changed, right? The focus shifted from confrontation to negotiations. Now, the focus has shifted from escalation to diplomacy. Again, a good thing. Now, the chapter is how the next thing is going to begin. So, it could determine whether this could become a lasting breakthrough or simply a temporary pause. That can be possible. That's the story everyone should be watching over the next 2 months. Trust me, because the biggest problem here can be, again, if the trust is broken, the war will restart. So the biggest problem here is just one thing. Israel. If Israel interrupts here and try to break this agreement, of course, all the agreement is absolutely broken. Because as you see in Lebanon, Donald Trump tries to stop and Israel just breaks that agreement, right? So I hope it doesn't happen really the same here because Israel says they feel threat from Iran. But they've been saying this since 25 years. But just let's be honest, because I'm telling you this based on the proof what is available on the internet, right? It's not my own theory. No, what we are seeing on the internet, what we are seeing since last 25 years is just the same thing. Nuclear program getting built all in all, right? So bottom line, Iran only wants one thing. It wants a lasting peace. It doesn't want to kill anyone. It doesn't want to bomb anyone. It doesn't want to disturb anyone. It wants to do business with all the countries without no sanctions, right? And US wants a promise from Iran. But what kind of promise? Let's just be honest, because all the time US makes the promise, but again, somehow the promise is broken. But I don't know from which side, but somehow the promise is broken and they just both ending up just blaming each other. But the hardest part here is I hope there will not be another drone attack or a missile attack on Israel or on Iran, because look, anything incoming from Israel towards Iran, it can restart the war and just dismantle this agreement totally, and everything will be back to the same old chapters, killing each other. And that's not a good thing. All we want to see in this world is peace, no killing, and no harming the civilians, because of these leaders, all the normal civilians are dying, and we don't want that, because we all deserve to live a normal life. We all deserve to go to shoppings, restaurants, every single thing. We just need a normal life, not the war. Thank you. See you in the next video. If you like the breakdown, you can subscribe for more and more breakdown.